Sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede. No en el campo, no en el aire, no Telone ninguna pared. Hey, hey, oh, oh, one big eater, got to go. Hey, hey, oh, oh, one big eater, got to go. Hey, hey.
Efraín, díganos un poquito, ¿cuál es la lucha el día de hoy? Miro que tiene este cartelón con usted, compartió unas palabras durante la reunión. ¿Qué es lo que nos puede contar sobre su experiencia personal y qué es lo que nos trae a este movimiento?
Esta lucha no es de hoy, esta lucha ha estado desde siempre, desde que se están usando los pesticidas en Estados Unidos. Esta lucha ha continuado. Y cada vez, gracias a la ciencia, se ha establecido de que muchos de los pesticidas causan cáncer. Se han quitado algunos, pero parece ser que quitamos algunos, pero de ahí surgen otros. Quitamos uno y surgen 5. Esta batalla es para nunca terminar. La ciencia, Departamento de Pesticidas del estado de California, tiene la información en sus manos y ahí enseña dónde estos pesticidas causan cáncer. Y ahora lo que quieren es levantar el estándar para que se puedan usar estos pesticidas después de que dicen de que después de cierto porcentaje que está en el ambiente, en el aire, es malo para la comunidad. Ahora quieren levantar ese estándar para hacerlo legal. Eso no debemos de... Todos los que me escuchan debemos de levantarnos en armas, se puede decir, y poner un basta. Todos nuestros niños, nuestra gente que está en el condado de Monterey, trabajando en el campo, están siendo expuestos, y no nomás los trabajadores, pero también todos los que comemos y respiramos en el condado de Monterey estamos siendo expuestos a estos pesticidas que causan cáncer. Y el pesticida que estamos ahorita poniendo para que lo quiten viene siendo 1,3D, también conocido como Telone. Eso debemos de exterminarlo ya, quitarlo, porque no es nuevo y está establecido de que está causando cáncer, está causando muertes y tenemos que eliminarlo.
Claro, usted había comentado también, miro que tiene su letrero que dice que para el cáncer de los niños. ¿Nos podría comentar un poquito qué impacto tiene este telón o este pesticida a los estudiantes, a los niños que están cerca en las escuelas?
Básicamente todas las escuelas, desgraciadamente, el terreno son donados por los rancheros y estas escuelas están siendo construidas alrededor de los campos agrícolas. Y pues mientras estén en estas escuelas rodeadas por los campos agrícolas, van a estar siendo rociados estos campos con pesticidas y nuestros hijos son los más vulnerables porque están ahí día con día en la escuela 8 horas a la semana por día y son los primeros que están siendo expuestos. Ahora no hay ninguna notificación que les digan a la escuela vamos a estar rociando estos pesticidas para que tomen precauciones de cerrar las ventanas, de no tener los niños jugando en el parque, en el patio. Hay manera de hacerlo. Queremos de que cuando se vayan a aplicar estos pesticidas haya una que son como 3 millas que esté fuera del alcance de las escuelas y que de todos modos se les notifique, no nomás a las escuelas, pero también a los residentes que están siendo, donde hay campos de agrícolas alrededor, para tomar esa decisión de que están siendo rociados estos pesticidas. Voy a cerrar la ventana, no voy a salir a caminar a tomar el aire ahora o hacer mi ejercicio porque están siendo rociados estos pesticidas. Necesitamos esa información. One of the things that we are fighting today is exposing the dangerous 1,3D that is also known as Telone. This pesticide has been applied on the Monterey County, especially on the strawberries fields, but mainly, they're also applied on all vegetables. So, my name is Efraín Aguilera. I'm a union representative for United Food and Commercial Workers, Union Local 5, and I'm a resident of South County, Greenfield. And the main point here is to expose the pesticide known as 1,3D, also known as Telone. This pesticide has been it's been shown that it's been applied here in the Monterey County. So all the residents of Monterey County that live here, they are breeding this pesticide, and they have it on their vegetables. And so what we're trying to do is to, here with this organization called SAS, we're calling for the authorities to ban this pesticide because it's not good for the community, it's not good for our children. Our children are the main ones that are being exposed because they're at school on every day, and all these schools are surrounded by the fields, and they're applying these pesticides on a daily basis. So we need to raise awareness to the community and for them to know that these pesticides are a common cancer-causing pesticide, and that's the reason that we need to ban it now.
Hey, so good afternoon and welcome everybody. I am Yaneli Martinez, the Safe Ag, Safe Schools Monterey Bay organizer and your host for this news conference, which is sponsored by the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council and Safe Ag, Safe Schools, also known as SAS. No SAS members here? There you go. I think we were sleeping back here. We would like to start this event by remembering one of the long-time leaders of our regional pesticide reform movement, who is no longer with us in body. Gary Carnes was a good trouble warrior in the fight to protect our communities from pesticide harms going back to the 1970s. In the 1980s, he was a leader of the powerful and game-changing Monterey County Pesticide Coalition. Gary continued at the helm of the Safe Strawberry Working Group of Monterey County through 2012. Just last year, right here, he was with us as we protested 1,3-D. Please take a moment of silence to remember our recently passed and beloved local leader, Gary Carnes. We know he is with us all today in spirit, so let's take a minute. Thank you. Our news conference is called Stop 1,3-D. Stop environmental racism, right? Yeah. I can't hear you. Do we want to stop environmental racism? Yes. Woo. Because it calls attention to a cancer-causing pesticide that is so hazardous it is banned, hear this right, in 34 countries. But it is the third most used pesticide in the Monterey Bay region, and nearly all of that use is disproportionately applied in Latino and indigenous communities. The pesticide is called 1,3-D, also known as the name brand Telone. While the rest of the world is banning 1,3-D, yesterday our state created a separate and unequal cancer risk standard for 1,3-D that allows for 14 times, yes, you heard it right, 14 times more 1,3-D in the air of our farm working communities, the air that they breathe. To be clear, California already had a cancer risk warning level of 1,3-D, and the State Department of Pesticide Regulation has decided to permit amounts 14 times above the cancer risk level. This policy is environmental racism. Am I right? Yeah. Today we are honored to have with us community leaders in the farm working community, civil rights and education and labor fields to speak about 1,3-D. Before we call up our first speakers, we ask that the media and guests save their questions for the end of the news conference. After the last speaker is done, thank you. In addition to a question and answer period, we will also have people available for interviews both in Spanish and English. We have many in support of our cause today who will not be at the mic, but we love them too. Thank you, UFCW. Yes, come on. CSEA and CTA. And I believe we also have CCA in the house.
BSC.
And BHC, yes. Let's give a big round of applause to all our allies. If I forget to name any of you, please remind me as I'm walking around, and before this conference is over, I will make sure that we call out all our amazing allies. Thank you for being here. So our first speakers are longtime activists and are a dynamic duo, Nelly Vaquera Boggs and Melissa Dennis. Ms. Vaquera Boggs is the president of the powerful Pájaro Valley Federation of Teachers, and Ms. Dennis is a member of that union and amazing third grade teacher at Telone Elementary School. Let's start with Nelly. Nelly, take it away.
Thank you. Good morning. There we go. Good afternoon. I'm Nelly Vaquera Boggs, president of the Pájaro Valley Federation of Teachers. Our union represents just over 1,100 educators in and around the Pájaro Valley. Students and workers at these schools have been exposed to cancer-causing 1,3-D for generations, as 1,3-D is a strawberry field fumigant that drifts for miles at harmful levels. And the fight to stop 1,3-D and fumigant use in our school district has gone on for generations as well. But first, a little information about this terrible toxic pesticide. The pesticide 1,3-D dichloropropene, or 1,3-D, was first registered in California in 1970 as a soil fumigant used to control nematodes. It has been manufactured by Dow Chemical under the brand name Telone, the brand Telone 2. 1,3-D is a colorless to straw-colored liquid with a sharp, sweet, irritating odor. It is a drift-prone fumigant pesticide used to kill organisms in the soil prior to planting, applied mostly on strawberry and grape fields in the Monterey Bay region. The fumigant is injected into the ground or applied by drip lines and typically, but not always, covered with tarps. I'm sure you have seen these massive tarps. 1,3-D drifts initially from wind and later from volatilization for many miles at health-harming concentrations. Acute harms from immediate drift exposure include the irritation of skin and nose, as well as possible slow weight gain in infants. Very high exposure to 1,3-D, such as a spill, can cause nausea, vomiting, headache, depression, and damage to liver, intestines, and bladder, and difficulty breathing. The long-term health threats from chronic exposure to even tiny amounts of 1,3-D over time can cause cancer, damage to the lining of the nose, and may pollute groundwater. 1,3-D is listed as a Prop 65 carcinogen and a toxic air contaminant by the state of California. 1,3-D is banned in 34 countries, but not in the U.S. yet. Not in the U.S. Yes, you heard that right, 34 countries. They have found 1,3-D so hazardous that they have banned it, and the pesticide was even prohibited in California between 1990 and 1995 after high air concentration levels were recorded in the Central Valley.
Ban it again. Do it again. Ban it again. Ban it again.
Ban it.
If 34 countries have banned it, and it was prohibited in California for the first 5 years of the 90s, and organic growers have been hugely successful, then it is obvious that 1,3-D is not necessary to grow berries. Yet 1,3-D is applied right up to the border of a number of schools in the Pájaro Valley Unified School District, as well as dozens in others in Monterey County. and within a quarter-mile of upwards of 100 schools and daycares in this region. Teachers and parents have been concerned about harmful pesticide use in our area for more than 50 years. We have seen cancer rates among staff and even more crushingly, students. We are concerned that the use of cancer-causing pesticides like 1,3-D are a part of the cause, so we want it stopped.
Get it here!
Get it now!
Get it now!
Earlier activists of the Monterey Bay Pesticide Coalition of the 1980s and Farm Without Harm in the 1990s pushed for fumigant reduction in our region, culminating in a 1999 civil rights lawsuit called Angelita C. versus the Department of Pesticide Regulation. Angelita C. was a pseudonym for the parent of an Ohlone elementary school student. She charged the state with violating the civil rights of her child and others at Ohlone Elementary because the student body was, and still is, nearly entirely Latino and indigenous. While the state allowed for disappropriate harm for pesticides to her child as opposed to students who attended largely white schools that were located far from ag fields and pesticide spray, after slow walking their investigation for 12 years, the courts finally decided that the Ohlone elementary students' civil rights had indeed been violated, that this was a case of environmental racism. So, the state's remedy was to put a pesticide air monitor on the grounds of Ohlone Elementary School to make sure no harmful levels of pesticides visited the school ever again. Well, since the state started testing the air for pesticides at the very end of 2011, the fumigant, 1,3-D, has been found at levels that far exceed the state's official cancer risk warning level at an elementary school. To tell you more about what the Department of Pesticide Regulation has done, or more accurately, not done, is PBFT member and Ohlone Elementary 3rd grade teacher and sister in struggle, Melissa Dennis.
All right.
Melissa?
Thank you, Nellie. I teach at Ohlone Elementary School. Thank you. Thank you. All of my 3rd graders are Latino or indigenous, and I became really concerned and involved over the last 12 years because I have not just had one student with cancer, not 2, but 3 students that have suffered from cancer. So when we hear about the statistics about the fact that 1,3-D is cancer causing, I have to live with the effects with my students, their struggles with chemotherapy, losing their hair, and still trying to be elementary school students at the same time. And currently, my coworker is undergoing chemotherapy as well. So what Nellie said is correct. We do have one of only 6 pesticide air monitors in the state, and unfortunately, that air monitor does not protect us. It only tells us that we're in danger. And it cannot keep us safe, and it can't get the government to act on that to protect the kids in the farm worker communities that surround the school. Since the first full year of testing in 2012, the amount of 1,3-D in the air that our staff and our students breathe has been 2.4 times above the official state cancer risk warning level. How can this be? You've heard the phrase moving the goalposts. That's what the Department of Pesticide Regulation has done regarding the cancer risk warning levels for 1,3-D. Follow me as this gets a little complicated. In June of 2022, the California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, or OEHA, issued a lifetime cancer warning exposure level for the pesticide 1,3-D of 3.7 micrograms per day. That's a tiny amount. Breathing air contaminated with 0.04 parts per billion of 1,3-D exposes one to 3.7 micrograms per day. They are equivalent. Dow Chemical, the manufacturer of 1,3-D, argued with OEHA that the cancer risk level for 1,3-D should be 50 micrograms per day, the equivalent of a breathing air concentrated with 0.56 parts per billion. of 1,3-D. Yesterday, the California Department of Pesticide Regulation released its new regulation for 1,3-D use regarding residential bystanders, setting the target exposure level at 0.56 parts per billion, allowing 14 times more 1,3-D in the air than the state's official lifetime cancer risk warning level, and aligning perfectly with Dow Chemical's stated desires, basically letting the manufacturer who is profiting from this chemical decide what is the safe amount for my students. I totally disagree. And I can't stand by and watch my students be exposed and watch them struggle with cancer. Do you think DPR will come to Telone and explain to us why we should trust their cancer risk figure that allows for 14 times more 1,3-D as opposed to the state's current cancer risk level? Are they going to come here and tell my students not to worry? That DPR scientists are smarter than the other ones? And that my students can handle 14 times more cancer-causing chemicals? Do you think they're going to do that? No! Are they going to tell us that the cancer risk figure proposed by the company that makes 1,3-D, Dow Chemical, is more reliable than the level our state toxicologist derived? No! No, because this is a racist policy. It's indefensible. I have had too many students and worked with too many colleagues who have suffered from cancer. DPR's cruel message to us at Telone Elementary School is that we are worth 14 times less to them. So my students get to breathe 14 times more cancer-causing pesticides than is safe, and that's what DPR thinks of Latino and Indigenous kids.
Thank you both for your powerful words. Thank you, Nelly, and thank you, Melissa. Let's give them a big round of applause. Woo! Our next speaker, ahora la siguiente persona que viene, our next speaker is a longtime activist for justice, Beatriz Diaz. Ms. Diaz is the president of the Greenfield LULAC and resident of my hometown, Greenfield. Beatriz.
My name is Beatriz Diaz. I'm a resident of Greenfield since 1965. I am also the president of LULAC 3298. First, I would like everyone to know that LULAC has been a national leader in fighting for pesticide reform, whether it's pushing for protection for farm workers in the fields or using to stop the use of the brain-harming chlorpyrifos. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But our LULAC 3298 has been active in all the SAS campaigns for pesticide reform over the years, including the importance campaign to stop the harmful use of cancer-causing 1,3-D and stop policies of environmental racism. It's clear what happened with this awful new 1,3-D regulations. DPR, Dow Chemical, and Big Ag wanted to keep using huge amounts of 1,3-D. But the state scientists said they couldn't use so much if we wanted to keep farm workers' communities from getting cancer. So DPR ignored the state scientists and went with Dow Chemical scientists. Something is wrong with the picture right here. Why ignore the scientists, the state scientists? Why keep using lots of 1,3-D and claiming they are not harming you and me? Blindness at its worst. I've been around a while and I've seen a lot of people with cancer, some family members, neighbors, friends, and my grandson who suffers with asthma. God only knows other illnesses this dangerous pesticide brings to everyone's health. Cancer hit close to my home. My dad was farm worker his whole life. Sad to say, he passed away from multiple myeloma. I might sound like a broken record, but during a visit I asked his oncologist, can this multiple myeloma be due to working with pesticides? I remember clearly, doctor said, could be, but it would be hard to prove. Those words still ring in my ears and often wonder till this day why doctor didn't go further and report it. What if studies would have been done regarding my dad's illness and my dad could have lived longer with less agonizing pain and suffering? Or it could have even saved some others, lives. My close friend, a lifetime farm worker that I see more as a sister, is dying from breast cancer and other bone illnesses. When I attend SAS meetings, she always interested in hearing what news I have on the pesticides. On the pesticide meeting I attended, I feel her in with what the meeting was about. My friend is concerned that DPR does not take no action for the best of the peoples on the pesticides also affect people that live near fields where they are spraying the pesticides. It is heartbreaking to hear that at one doctor's appointment, we asked her doctor question, can this be regarding to pesticides? Doctor's response again, could be. End of the story, and that's it with his response. I heard that with my dad's, response, and it is frustrating, why doctors don't want to continue with the question being asked and be truthful about it. My friend will bring stories just as I remember too when I used to work with my dad during our school vacations. Her stories are just as chilling as mine are, about working in the fields and how they spray pesticides within a few hours of them, starting their work day. She recalls some workers would have nausea, body itching, eye irritation, etc. Sometimes you would see planes, spraying the pesticides near you where she was working. She would feel the mist as they were spraying nearby. I was reading a website, National Institute of the Health Studies, that there are now links between pesticides exposure and cancer, including blood cancers and multiple myeloma, as well as neurodegenerative disease. Multiple myeloma is what took my dad's life. That would have been a great thing if they would have continued 30 years ago and trying to find out if it was due to pesticides or not. In conclusion, I have this to say. On behalf of LULAC 3298, DPR, stop your racist policy that allow 13D to continue to harm our Latino and indigenous communities. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to speak, and I pray DPR will take our concerns seriously, porque sí se puede.
I love the crowd and the cheer. Olga, let's take it away. Hey, hey, hey. 13D has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. 13D has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. 13D has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. 13D has got to go. Woo! I love it. I love to stand here today and be surrounded by so many activists. Muchas personas fuertes, activistas, gracias. Es un honor estar aquí rodeada de cada uno de ustedes. Now, thank you, Beatriz. We are so lucky to have activists like you in the struggle to protect our community's health and civil rights. I am happy to say that our next speaker is another wonderful and committed Greenfield area community leader, Noemi Chico. Miss Chico is also a teacher in Salinas. So she's going to be able to talk to us about not only her position as a mom, but as a teacher. So with that, Miss Chico.
Good afternoon. I am Noemi Chico, a mother who lives in Greenfield and a special ed paraeducator who works in Salinas. I spend nearly all my hours and days in the Salinas Valley. I spend nearly all my hours and days surrounded by an invisible monster, pesticides. The monster is harming my community. There's just too much cancer to be occurring naturally. Cancer-causing pesticides like 13D are increasing the cancer risk in the Salinas Valley. I worry about 1,3-D's possible harm to my daughter, Alexia, who wanted to be here today but has to go to school at Greenfield High. I also worry about my 18-year-old Antonio and my 5-year-old Victoria. I worry about my students in Salinas. I worry about my people, my Black, Indigenous, people of color, and white allies. And I worry that the people who are supposed to protect us, the pesticide regulators like DPR and the Ag Commissioner, are perfectly happy with our farm worker communities being poisoned and damaged by pesticides. I worry about my family members who are agricultural workers. Yesterday's 1,3-D regulation by DPR is another example of why I and we all should worry, and we must fight back. More than 1 million pounds of 1,3-D are applied in Monterey and Santa Cruz counties every year. Most of those toxic applications are in the Salinas and Pajaro valleys, where strawberries and grapes are prominent crops. 1 million pounds. Yet, the 27 countries of the European Union applied almost no 1,3-D because they banned it more than a decade ago. Now, California is allowing growers and applicators to use up to 14 times more 1,3-D than the cancer risk warning level the state set last year. California is going in the wrong direction on regulating 1,3-D, and that direction is toward environmental racism. Who lives in the Pajaro and Salinas valleys, where almost all cancer-causing 1,3-D is applied? Mostly Latino and Indigenous people. Who lives on the coast, far away from ag fields and 1,3-D? Mostly white people. Who really pays with their health and with their lives for the mega profits of big ag and the pesticide companies? Mostly Latino and Indigenous peoples. That's outright racism, and that's got to stop.
I love the crowd, me encanta. ¿Cómo está la energía? Quisiera que toda la gente que nos está mirando mirara cuántas personas hay aquí. Tenemos casi casi 50 personas por ahí más o menos que estamos aquí. Estamos cansados que nos sigan abusando, ¿verdad? Sí. Queremos que se haga justicia. Sí. ¿Queremos al telón en el mercado o fuera? Fuera. ¿Dónde queremos al telón? Fuera. Eso, así que se sienta la fuerza. ¡Ya basta! ¡Ya basta! ¡Woo! So with that, thank you so much, Noemi, and also for helping to get the next generation involved. For many of you that do not know who Noemi is a mother of, our wonderful and youth activist, Alexia Rangel. So Alexia learns from the best. So now, our next speaker, Ileana Miranda, is our next speaker. Miss Miranda is a resident of the San Gerardo in Monterey County, where she is the general manager of the San Gerardo Cooperative, a beautiful community of farm workers. Ileana, right behind.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. As Nelly said, my name is Ileana Miranda. My name is Ileana Miranda. I am the general manager of San Gerardo Cooperative. San Gerardo Cooperative is a community of farm workers built by and for farm workers, and we are completely surrounded by agricultural fields. I've been a resident of San Gerardo for the past 9 years. My husband was actually born and raised in San Gerardo. The San Gerardo community has suffered from pesticide contamination in the air and the water for generations. In fact, our water in San Gerardo is still contaminated with the earlier version of the product we are protesting today. Telone 1 has an ingredient that broke down into a cancer-causing chemical called 1,2,3-TCP. Although Telone 1 was discontinued in the mid-1980s, 1,2,3-TCP was still polluting our water system at cancer-causing levels in San Gerardo more than 3 decades later. In fact, my very own father-in-law passed away to stomach cancer in 2010. My children didn't get to have a relationship with their paternal grandfather, and that's what hurts our family the most. My husband has asthma, and so does my son. The mistakes we make today can harm us and harm our children tomorrow. That is my biggest fear over DPR's weak and racist regulation of Telone 2. What will Telone 2's legacy be? The scientists at the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment warn California that if Telone or 1,2,3-D is in our air at more than 0.04 parts per billion, we're likely to see more cancer in our communities. Now, DPR has set regulation of 1,3-D that is designed to limit air concentrations to 0.56 parts per billion. That's 14 times more. So what are they telling us? Are our children worth 14 times less than others in the state? Are we worth 14 times less than other members of the state? No. So what can we predict? These cancer rates will continue in our communities if the applications continue. You will hear some of the DPR directors and ag commissioners and big ag representatives say they must use 1,3-D, that there's no other alternatives. But 34 countries have banned its use. California even prohibited 1,3-D in between 1990 and 1995. Also, many organic growers have figured out how to grow strawberries without hazardous pesticides like 1,3-D. Clearly, we can grow crops without 1,3-D. So why allow for more 1,3-D use than is safe? It feels to us in farmworker communities that the state and DPR simply do not care about the health risks our communities are facing. But we will not stand for that. Will we? No! Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ileana, for that great information of just like your feelings and the work that you're doing, and continue to be a great advocate. So let's give her a big round of applause. And I know we're starting to see a little bit of the sun popping in, and for you that are in the outskirts members, if you guys want to come in a little bit more into the shade, feel free. There's still a lot of room back here. So con confianza. Ya está saliendo el sol. Si se quieren hacer un poquito para acá atrás, aquí hay más lugar. Pero con confianza, estamos aquí, estamos unidos, estamos en familia, ¿verdad? Sí. Okay, next up to our microphone is, I call him the legend, that's not in our writing, but he is a United Farm Workers organizer, Juan Manuel Morán. La leyenda, sí. A él no le gusta que le diga la leyenda, pero lo es. Mr. Morán is always there whenever the movement needs him, right? Yes. I think he might even share some words from his hero and co-worker, César Chávez. ¿Listo? Y tiene que entrar con el sí se puede, ¿verdad, Olga? Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. Gracias a Yaneli, y pues es un honor para mí, ¿verdad?, estar aquí con tanta gente que siempre ha luchado en esto de las pesticidas. Aquí nada más con el grupo de SAS tengo como 6 años ahí conociendo a varios de los compañeros, así es de que, pero eso lo aprendí de otra persona. Yo vine de México en el año 73, y igual que muchos trabajé en el campo por 23 años, y allí fue en el 75 cuando conocí a César Chávez, y pues en la compañía donde trabajaba yo en el 79 decidimos organizarnos, y decidimos que la Unión de Campesinos nos representara. Y allí trabajé 23 años, 17 años bajo contrato de la Unión. Luego ya de allí, pues Y entonces esos 23 años, los 17 años con la Unión, pues me tocó andar en muchas marchas, siempre luchando contra los pesticidas y en favor de los campesinos. Y después de esos años, de 17 años, la Unión me invitó a trabajar directamente para la Unión y hasta ahorita tengo 26 años trabajando como representante de la Unión. Entonces pues me ha tocado mirar muchas desgracias, ¿verdad? En la compañía donde trabajaba yo me tocó mirar 3 compañeros de trabajo que murieron de cáncer, y como estaba diciendo Beatriz y algunos hemos dicho que siempre muere de cáncer la persona y los doctores nunca saben de dónde vino ese cáncer, y nosotros sabemos, ¿verdad?, de que es muchas veces por los pesticidas. Entonces pues mirando eso, siempre que ha habido la oportunidad de poder yo poner mi granito de arena luchando contra los pesticidas, pues siempre he andado aquí. Los últimos años que vivió César, me tocó andar, así como estoy con ustedes aquí, me tocó andar con el codo con codo, luchando contra los pesticidas. Y el último ayuno que tuvo en el 88, que duró 26 días en ayuno, y fue en esto mismo, por en contra de los pesticidas. Entonces tenemos años y años luchando contra los pesticidas, y se ha logrado muy poco, y decimos que es algo de racismo también, porque ahorita tenemos el comisionado de la agricultura aquí en el condado de Monterey, que viene del condado de Santa Cruz, y sin embargo en el condado de Santa Cruz sí hicieron algunas cosas por mejorar esto de los pesticidas. ¿Y por qué? Porque allá no hay tanta gente latina, casi pura gente rica, y no siempre le hacen más caso a la gente, porque siempre por todo el tiempo ha ido el dinero por delante. Y hablando de Santa Cruz, y estaban habiendo algunas, como la compañera aquí que dijo que no es necesario el 1,3-D, porque tengo representando como 22 años a una compañía en Santa Cruz que se llama Swantonberry Farm, y esa compañía es orgánica y se dedica más que nada a la industria de la fresa. Entonces, si por 20 y tantos años han estado ellos sin usar pesticidas y tienen muy buen reconocimiento en San Francisco, y por donde quiera la gente llega allí porque está a puro paso de la carretera 1, y tienen allí, y diario está lleno de gente allí comprando. Así es de que, y muy bonita fresa y sin pesticidas. Entonces quiere decir que sí, no es necesario tanta pesticida, ¿verdad? Entonces, entonces por eso siempre vamos a luchar y que se quiten estas pesticidas, porque muchas veces piensan que nada más hace daño a los campesinos que andan allí directamente, pero acuérdense y que todas las frutas, verduras, especialmente si la gente no tiene cuidado con lavarlos, todos llevan pesticidas, porque ha habido estudios que han estudiado los vegetales, frutas y todo, y llevan residuos de pesticidas. Así es de que no es nada más para los campesinos, es para todo el mundo que come esas verduras y esas frutas. Así es de que voy a tratar de decir algo de unas frases que César dijo una vez. Dijo: el olor de la injusticia en California debe de ofender a todos los americanos, algunas personas más, especialmente aquellos que no creen o no entienden. Yo quisiera creer que el gobierno se va a encargar de estos problemas. El gobierno debería, pero no lo hará. Así es de que esto fue palabras de César Chávez. Gracias. Y sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Gracias.
Sí se puede. Sí se puede.
Thank you, Juan. Gracias, Juan. Multiple generations of us who have been benefited from your organization and the work that you do. Juan, muchas personas como yo y como muchos que estamos aquí se han beneficiado del trabajo de la organización de la Unión de Campesinos y también de tu habilidad como organizador, así es que gracias. Next up is Francisco Rodríguez. Yes. Somebody who many of you might not know, but for those that don't know who this person is, Francisco is a retired teacher, yes, believe it or not, retired union president, but the new interim executive director. Are we hearing it here for the first time? Executive director of the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council, Francisco.
Thank you. Before we start, I'd like us to just take a moment to remember somebody that was here with us about a year ago. He was our political coordinator, and he was very helpful to everyone who needed help, who had a social movement, or just needed to find out the latest political chisme. He had it. His name was Glenn Schaller. He was our political director. If we could just please take a moment as well. Thank you, everyone. My name is Francisco Rodriguez. I am the interim executive director for the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council, and I live in Watsonville, about half a block from McQuitty School, which is directly adjacent to agricultural fields where Telone is applied. In fact, earlier this year there was an application there at the school. The Monterey Bay Central Labor Council has over 80 affiliated unions. Some of them have representatives here. If we could please recognize United Food and Commercial Workers. Thank you. The California Teachers Association representatives are here. California School Employees Association. Thank you. The California Federation of Teachers as well. And Nelly is also Vice President with the California Federation of Teachers. We also have a number of other unions that are affiliated with us, including Teamsters and construction trades. As you heard, the Department of Pesticide Regulation has failed to regulate properly. We heard from my former colleague, I was a teacher, as was mentioned before, that the scientists from the Department of Regulation listened to Dow Chemical instead of listening to their own scientists. That is not something that we would expect. We would expect that those scientists are here to protect us, to regulate, and to make sure that our children, our workers, and our communities are safe. DPR has created a weaker, separate, and unequal cancer risk standard for farm worker communities that are disproportionately exposed to 1,3-D.
Environmental racism!
That is what it is called, yes. This is environmental racism, and it's in the service of Dow's corporate profits. We are not done here. DPR still continues or has additional regulations that will be taking place in March 2024. And I ask everyone here, your organizations, your families, your friends, to continue to come, to protest, to continue to be loud, and to continue to let the Department of Pesticide Regulation know that we will not stand for this environmental racism that they have created. ¿Se puede o no se puede?
¡Sí se puede!
¿Se puede?
¡Sí se puede!
Thank you.
I love this group of activists. Thank you, and thank you for your incredible leadership, Francisco. And thank you all for your attention today. Now we can take questions from the media first, and then guests second. After that, a small delegation. Raise your hand, our small delegation. Yes, those folks that you see raising their hand. A small delegation of us will be delivering a letter to the county clerk, calling on the county board of supervisors to request to our ag commissioner to put local restrictions on, guess what? I can't hear you. I want the board of supervisors to hear you. Yes, on 1,3-D use. Since the state has failed to protect us, right? So, thank you very much. Gracias a cada uno de ustedes que está aquí presentes atrás de mí. Yo sé que no es en nuestra cultura no es bueno dar la espalda, pero gracias por estar aquí. Con esto concluimos nuestra rueda de prensa. Ahora vamos a tomar preguntas de los medios de comunicación primero. Segundo, de aquí del público presente, y luego una pequeña delegación de miembros de aquí con nosotros. Levanten la mano levanten la mano el grupo de delegación. A ver, ya se me durmieron, ya se me fueron. Ellos van a llevar una carta a la persona que se encarga de los supervisores, donde básicamente le estamos pidiendo al comisionado Hidalgo aquí del condado de Monterrey que por favor ponga restricciones al uso de ¿qué? ¿Al uso de qué? Sí, al 1,3-D, 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 1,3-D. Sí, al uso del 1,3-D, conocido por su marca como Telone, porque básicamente el Estado ha fallado y no nos va a proteger y no nos va a cuidar y no va a alzar la voz por nosotros, así es que es parte de nuestro deber y trabajo, ¿verdad que sí? Sí. Así es que con eso, gracias. With that, thank you. And now we are open to any questions from the media or secondly from our public, and then our delegation is going to go in. Preguntas, questions? No? Everything was wonderful?
There's some over there.
Okay.
When is DPR going to bring back air monitoring to Salinas? It was taken out in 2015. Our closest air monitor is at Telone. We're 2.4 times the higher level. I'm saying it wrong, but they've had excessive levels of that level. What is going on in Salinas? When will our air be monitored?
Very good question, right? I wish that Hidalgo, or Ag Commissioner Hidalgo, was here to answer that question, but we don't see him. But you know what we could do, Karen? We could go over to his office, plan it, and let's go do a protest and rally out there, right? Yes. Anybody else, Chago?
Any of our school trustee board members from the districts that are in the areas that are exposed? We know our kids have school, they have classes, they're playing out in the yard, and a lot of times they're right next to the fields. How are they participating?
Teachers present, levanten la mano, todos los profesores y maestros aquí presentes. Any of you would like to answer that question?
Well, I'm here today. I'm a school board member from Greenfield Elementary. I'm here today.
I have a
question. Does this also include Castroville? Because they are surrounded by fields, and all the schools are surrounded. I came from there. North County is just, it smells like manure and all that stuff. So would the air monitoring, would that also go towards North County, or is it just Salinas?
Right now, all this group of amazing people that you see back here, they're advocating for everybody across the state of California. So that's including your area, yes. And with what our members suggested of the air monitor, that's a challenge that we have. But if we get more people power going to the Ag Commissioner's office, because that's where it starts, we'll make it happen. So join us. Que se una. Sí, únete, únete.
A la lucha, únete, únete, únete. A la lucha, únete, únete, únete. A la lucha, únete.
Thank you. Very good question. Anybody else before we take in our delegation? Últimas pregunta. Last question.
What would it take for the DPR and or our Ag Commissioner to act and act now? Are they want to, for all these residents to become ill and die? What else do they need to see? I mean, they see the data, they see everything. Still not making any changes. It just don't make any sense to me.
Public pressure.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Did you guys hear what Efraín? I wish you would come up here.
Ya basta. ¿Qué más va? ¿Qué más se espera para que el DPR o el comisionado de la agricultura haga un cambio? La gente está enfermándose, se está muriendo. Toda la información de la data está ahí, de que está causando cáncer. ¿Qué más se necesita para hacer esto? ¿Están sordos? ¿Están ciegos? ¿Que no miran y no escuchan? Ya basta, tienen que actuar y hacer algo.
Exacto. Ya basta. Gracias, Efraín.
Por eso es importante ir a la oficina de él y preguntarle por qué si en Santa Cruz hizo algo por los residentes del condado de Santa Cruz y por qué aquí no está haciendo nada.
Eso, buena pregunta, y nos vamos a unir y vamos a ir, ¿verdad?
¡Vamos!
So, con eso ya terminamos la rueda de prensa. Oh, Sandy con Telemundo.
It's more like a question / what I think people or authorities want to see. In some cases for us, they're asking if there's documentation like hospital bills, hospital records that this is actually causing cancer. This is what they want to see. So if anyone who suffers from this, I say bring all the proof, bring everything, because that's why that's what they want to see. They want to see the proof that the hospital says, yes, you have cancer because of this. And I know a lot of people have been going to the hospital, but they want to see this. So
yeah.
I like, if it's anybody here who wants to share that also, is there's anyone you could be like, I've been in the hospital, I've been going through this, but here's my proof, I've been going through this, and this is what's causing my family to suffer.
That's a great question, Sandy, and I know that many of our members here could answer that. Sandy, I hope all of you guys heard the question. La pregunta que dijo Sandy, la reportera de Telemundo, es que por qué ella quiere saber y la gente quiere saber que tienen estas preguntas o que dicen, ok, hay tantos problemas que están pasando en la comunidad, ¿dónde está la documentación de que fueron al hospital, de que fueron tratados porque se afectaron por pesticidas? Y yo tengo una respuesta, pero yo sé también muchos de ustedes que tienen una respuesta aquí. Oscar, you want to answer that? Pásale acá el micrófono.
¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede!
It would be great, but you know what? They ignore the facts anyway. So even if we provide them, they'll make up some lame excuse. They're ignoring the proof of their own scientists.
Yep.
It's laid out for them, plainly laid out for them. They ignore it. So no matter how many hospital bills, how many sick patients we bring, they're always going to ignore it and make up an excuse. They're doing it at the state level, they're doing it at the national level sometimes. So that's why my colleague says, what more do they need? Do they actually need us to drag bodies to their office? Because that's what's next. The proof is there. The scientists have proven it time and time again. Major universities like UCLA, UC Berkeley have shown the proof and they ignore it. So no matter what we bring, they're going to choose to believe the big ag companies, right? For them, it's profit over people, especially our young people all over our community.
And they've ignored decades of Chamaco's
Yo le puedo
research.
contestar a ella. Yo fui al hospital y le dije a mi doctor que por qué no me entregamos mi archivo. Me dijo que se lo tenía que entregar a mi patrón. Pero yo tenía problemas con los pulmones y con la alergia. Eso era únicamente información para el patrón, no para mí. No tenemos prueba. ¿Cómo lo podemos probar? Todo lo que me está pasando en mis pulmones y en mi sistema respiratorio. No es posible.
Igual nosotros los maestros, we have students that are sick. The district won't count how many cancers we have. The doctors won't say exactly what it's from because everybody's afraid. So we aren't able to get the proof that we want to. We all know what's happening. We see it right before our eyes on a daily basis, but we're not able, no one's counting for us. No one's counting the bodies. We need someone to count all the cases of cancer.
Yes.
If you want to go to our district and ask them how many cancers have we had, they won't tell you an answer. So that's a question that I would like you, the media, to go to the districts and ask them. I would like you, the media, to go to Stanford and find out how many of my students' families spend half their school year at Stanford getting chemo. Because I would like to know that number too.
Yeah. I love this dialogue happening right here, but yes, our delegation is gonna walk in, but the rest of you could stay here and continue the conversation. Oscar, I leave you in charge as the MC.
She had a question.
Oh, yes, ask away. Our delegation is going in, it's just 4 of us, but the rest is staying out here, so ask away, Oscar, MC.
Well, my question would be more towards, you guys are speaking of cancers and more of the actual harm, after effects of it. What about the kids that have asthma that are in the schools? Like, what about the statistics for that? I'm sure that's probably high in the children that are in the schools next to the field smelling the pesticides and whatnot. Has anybody took into account that, the asthma rate for our young kindergarten to like senior age kids? Because that's a lot of kids in this area that may, be experiencing asthma. My child experienced asthma. We live in Castroville near the field. She still has asthma, but it was very, very bad when she was young because of that. So I'm just wondering if asthma in children is also being taken into account. It may not be as serious as cancer, but it does lead to other health issues along the way.
Yeah, the problem with requesting this kind of information is that they're going to cite their student rights to not release any of that information. So,
well, isn't it just statistical, like in this area, it's like the population of kids with asthma is such and such based on just what the doctors are reporting and whatnot? Is that not something available?
Exactly. Well, it's like the studies from UCLA, from UC Chamacos, which she mentions. It's there, but they choose not to do anything with that information.
Including the children as well as with the adults that have the cancer and other harmful conditions.
Salinas Valley Memorial Hospital doctors started an asthma camp and did that because the growing number of children over the years exponentially was increasing. And so now we have an asthma camp. Not paying attention to those sort of things is ignoring it. I mean, 600 plus people took part in the Chamaco study. Those weren't rats in a cage. Those were real people. And that study is going on. So all that is studied. It's hard data. We have it written down. It's beyond a shadow of a doubt. And it still gets ignored. And the thing is, what parent would be disappointed if their child went to Berkeley or to UCLA, or UC Davis? This is studies that are peer-reviewed. There's no money involved. Nobody gets paid to do these studies. And they're conclusive from reputable institutions.
but still 14 times beyond what good science says is safe is what we just heard from the DPR. So they're not listening.
Thanks, Christy.
Thank you.
Y una de las razones que yo pienso también que no dicen la verdad en los hospitales, porque localmente sabemos que muchas de las compañías grandísimas, de las compañías más grandes que hay aquí en el área, aportan mucho dinero a los hospitales. Entonces también ahí hay una de las razones por qué nunca, siempre están de parte de las compañías. También de parte del gobierno, porque si algunos de los que fueron, que cuando fuimos a Sacramento con el Comité de Regulación de los Pesticidas, allí miramos también el racismo y con quién están vendidos, porque a nosotros nos daban 1 minuto y medio de hablar en el micrófono, y cuando llegaba el tiempo nos paraban. Luego llegaron 3 personas y la primera habló y habló y habló y nunca lo pararon, ya sea como 2 minutos o más de 2 minutos, y nunca lo pararon hasta que comenzamos a protestar y lo pararon. Resulta que era un ranchero, y a nosotros sí nos paraban inmediatamente y al ranchero no lo pararon. Luego después vino que otra persona, que según doctora, también a favor de los rancheros, y también la dejaron hablar y hablar y hablar. Se pasó el minuto y nunca la pararon hasta que volvimos a protestar para que la pararan. Luego de ahí vino la última persona de ellos. Resulta que esa persona había trabajado en el Comité de Regulaciones de los Pesticidas y ahora está trabajando para los rancheros. ¿Qué quiere decir? Que están vendidos con ellos porque hacen todo lo que los rancheros quieren y luego después les dan trabajo a ellos mismos. Entonces, por suerte me tocó, yo fui el último que di mi testimonio y pues me querían parar. Le dije, no, también a ellos les dieron mucha quebrada. Así es de que, y ya les dije, pues ahora entiendo, le digo, yo ando aquí en este movimiento desde hace como 35, 40 años y siempre el mismo tema, luchando y luchando contra los pesticidas, pero ahora me doy cuenta por qué ustedes no hacen nada, porque están vendidos con los rancheros. Digo, porque aquí se miró bien claro que a nosotros nos paraban luego y a ellos los dejaron que hablaran todo lo que quisieran. Así es de que aquí localmente las compañías que aportan dinero a los hospitales y en el gobierno, el dinero que les dan a ellos para sus campañas. Gracias.
Say, first and foremost, we're concerned about the health of the people in California as well as the environment. First and foremost, we're concerned about the health of the people and the environment. But let's take a look at it through their eyes, because in my opinion, working with California Department of Pesticide Regulation, they look through a lens of finance. They care about the dollar bill. So let's put it this way. Look at the Monsanto lawsuit and what it is costing people. It's a matter of time before the ducks will be in order, all the T's will be crossed, the I's will be dotted, and lawsuits will be flying their way. How is the state of California going to be able to withstand that in the budget? They're going to be responsible for that.
Okay. I love this energy. We're back, if you haven't noticed, and we're closing this amazing press conference. Ya se acabó, lo siento, pero vamos a cerrar con un, como que dice, para mirar la fuerza y la unidad, ¿ok? So, ¿listos? Hey, hey, ho, ho. 13D has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. 13D has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. 13D has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. 13D has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. 13D has got to go. Yes, gracias. Y para finalizar, como dice Olga ya, not in the fields, not in the air. 13D, not anywhere. Not in the fields, not
Beatriz Díaz.
Beatriz Díaz, ¿a quién representas tú?
Soy presidente de LULAC, 3298.
¿Presidente de LULAC?
Ajá. Y pues siempre he estado con SAS, los pesticidas.
Bueno, ¿qué es lo más reciente? Sabemos que el Departamento de Regulación aprobó niveles exorbitantes de la aplicación de Telone. ¿Qué es lo preocupante de la situación?
Lo más preocupante para mí es que son, ¿cómo te diría? Los pesticidas que usan no son buenos para la gente, están causando muchos daños a muchas personas. Una de esas personas, pues hasta ahorita no hemos entendiendo por qué razón no pudieron hacer algo por mi papá, que él falleció de multiple myeloma, y le preguntamos al doctor que si era tocante a pesticidas. Dijo, posible, pero va a ser duro para probarlo. Para mí, esto ya hace más de 30 años, pero ahorita tengo una amiga que es casi como hermana que está sufriendo de cáncer.
¿Y qué hacía tu papá?
Mi papá trabajaba en el field.
¿En qué campo?
En la uva, trabajó muchos años en la uva. Y también trabajó en el tomate, en el chile, durante los años que él trabajaba en el field.
¿Y tú qué piensas de eso? Entonces, ¿cuál es el llamado? ¿Qué es lo que tú...?
Las pesticidas, cuando él andaba trabajando, recordamos nosotros que, porque yo también iba allá en cada en cuando, como en tiempos de cuando la escuela nos daba vacaciones, ¿verdad? Miraba los aviones que iban pasando, echando veneno o pesticidas, pues, ¿verdad? Para la cosecha. Muchas de las veces sentías el sereno en tu cuerpo. Sentías el... I'm sorry. Se me olvidó pagarla. I forgot to turn it on.
So we're going to interview Janelli next, and then Morán.
Me olvidó pagarlo. Sorry.
Lo último que estabas diciendo que es bien importante. Los pesticidas que piensas.
Oh, sí, ya. Tocante a las pesticidas, yo recuerdo cuando íbamos con mi papá, que nos llevaba al fil a trabajar, pasaban los aviones cerca de los files que andábamos, ¿verdad? Y tirando sus pesticidas ahí. Algunas veces oíamos la gente que decía que se sentían náuseas, otras empezaban a rascarse, ¿verdad? Con dolor de cabeza, los ojos irritantes. Y para mí las pesticidas esas sí no deben de estar ahí poniéndolas ahí, especialmente cuando entran. A las 4 de la mañana estaban poniendo las pesticidas y ya para las 6, 5 y media que ibas a empezar a trabajar ya te metían ahí. Ahí se miraba todos los pesticidas en las plantas, como en el tomate, en el chile, según la cosecha que andabas haciendo. No recuerdo cuáles son las que eran, pero sí eran unas que tenían ahí la pesticida ahí.
Entonces, ¿el llamado cuál es? ¿Que dejen de utilizar pesticidas?
Pues que retiren el telón, especialmente la 1,3-D, que es una de las, tengo entendido, ¿verdad? Que mi papá falleció de multiple myeloma, ¿verdad? Y estaba mirando yo también ahora en un website que decía que hasta ahorita tienen entendido que es un causante la pesticida es un causante, ¿verdad? De multiple myeloma. Hubieran tenido esto hace años atrás, mi papá no hubiera sufrido tanto, ¿verdad? Y probablemente muchas personas también no hubieran estado con esas enfermedades hasta ahorita.
¿Cómo traduces multiple myeloma? ¿Cómo traduces?
Múltiple mieloma, yo creo, en español.
Francisco Rodríguez, secretario tesorero del Concilio Laboral de la Bahía de Monterey.
Recibió un comunicado que el Departamento de Regulación había aprobado niveles excesivos del telón. Cuéntame acerca de lo más reciente que aprobó el departamento.
Sí, mira, el departamento ha aprobado unos límites que son muy altos. De hecho, creo que son 14 veces más alto de lo que sus mismos científicos están diciendo que son seguros.
¿Cómo afecta eso a las escuelas? ¿Tú que fuiste maestro?
Sí, pues afecta no solamente a las escuelas, ya que muchas escuelas en el Valle de Salinas y en el Valle de Pájaro están muy cercanas a campos agrícolas, ¿no? Entonces, no solamente afecta ahí las escuelas, sino también a las comunidades que viven cerca de esas escuelas.
¿El peligro del telón cuál es? Cuéntame.
Bueno, pues eso es un pesticida, es muy peligroso y ya no se puede usar en muchos otros países, ¿verdad? Y la razón que no se puede usar es porque cuando se aplica
a veces se disipa y aunque ¿verdad? Tratan de contenerlo, no siempre es posible. Y algunos de los efectos son a largo plazo, son cáncer y otros problemas que padecen los niños y personas.
¿Y el llamado cuál es?
Bueno, el llamado es de que el Departamento de Regulación de Pesticidas siga lo que sus propios científicos están proponiendo, para que así las comunidades que viven cerca de donde se apliquen estos pesticidas, pues estén más seguras.
Perfecto. Pero si los científicos hicieron esa recomendación, ¿por qué aprobaron esos niveles tan altos? ¿Por qué no siguieron las recomendaciones de los científicos?
Porque las compañías que producen estos pesticidas básicamente pues convencen a los reguladores que usen otros números.
Carlos Vega, presidente del sur del condado, en Greenfield.
Bueno, ¿qué piensas tú de esa situación?
Bueno, es algo que yo viví en carne propia en los campos. Yo trabajé en la agricultura y es algo que a la fecha estoy pagando todavía.
¿Por qué?
Diferentes problemas con mis pulmones y con mis vías respiratorias ocasionadas por el tipo de pesticidas y el tipo de todo lo que tiran en los files.
¿Trabajaste en el campo y cómo te viste afectado con eso? ¿Cómo fue?
Bueno, yo apliqué directamente en la uva fertilizantes, fungicidas, herbicidas, toda clase de químicos para que la uva y el producto se dé. Y desgraciadamente pues nos afecta porque cuando uno lo empiezan a uno a trabajar sin ninguna protección, no guantes, no overall, no botas Yule, nada, inclusive no máscara. Entonces me tocó trabajar varias veces con herbicidas, que éramos 3 tractores, yo estaba en medio y yo recibía la nube de los otros 2. Y esto es algo.
¿Cómo te afectó? ¿Te afectó cómo?
En los pulmones y en mis vías respiratorias, porque padezco demasiada alergia relacionado con eso. Uno va a decir que en realidad fue por parte de eso, pero es gran parte de eso.
¿Y su nombre?
Juan Manuel Morán.
¿A quién representas?
A la Unión de Campesinos.
Bueno, cuéntame acerca de estos niveles que consideran ilegales, cuestión de racismo, ¿de qué se trata esto?
Bueno, pues ya tenemos años y años, ¿verdad?, luchando por esto aquí en el grupo de SAS, pero tú sabes, como parte del movimiento de nosotros tenemos muchos más años. Y pues siempre, todo el tiempo hemos tratado de evitar que quiten estos pesticidas que hacen mucho daño, ¿verdad?, a la gente que trabaja especialmente en el campo. Pero en resumidas cuentas no nomás es a los del campo, porque muchos de los pesticidas que ponen en las verduras, en las frutas y todo, siempre no deja de llevar a restos de químicas. Ni mucha gente piensa que nomás es en el campo, pero a donde vaya la fruta y las verduras, si no las lavan bien, allí están las pesticidas, porque muchas veces han hecho estudios donde demuestra que van restos de pesticidas en las frutas y verduras.
¿Qué es lo que ustedes quieren?
Pues especialmente, ¿verdad?, que traten de aplicar las menos pesticidas que se puedan, ¿verdad?, especial en el 1,3-D, ¿verdad?, que hay estudios recientes, ¿verdad?, que demuestra que hacen mucho daño a la gente y al medio ambiente. Así es de que eso es lo que queremos también, de que haya un anuncio cuando cierto tiempo antes de que lo vayan a aplicar, porque muchas veces pues la gente ni sabe, lo aplican y la gente no sabe, y especialmente como alrededor de las escuelas, como aquí que hay muchas escuelas en toda el área del condado de Monterey, muchas escuelas alrededor de los campos. Entonces queremos que haya un anuncio que digan tal día vamos a a aplicar estos pesticidas, así es de que tengan cuidado.
Kendely Martínez, organizadora de Escuela Segura, Agricultura Segura.
Recibí el comunicado que el Departamento de Regulación había aumentado los niveles del telón. Cuéntame acerca de eso, que los aprobó.
Básicamente sí, tú estuviste aquí con nosotros, Adriana, hace un año, más o menos, y en ese momento estaban sacando estos números ridículos donde básicamente decían que estaba bien que pudieran envenenar a nuestra comunidad 14 veces más que otras comunidades, y los llevamos a corte y la corte les dijo que tenían que ir otra vez a mirar las regulaciones, venir con unas regulaciones que fueran en conjunto con las de OIJA, que son los expertos, los científicos, y ¿qué pasó? Básicamente vuelven con las mismas regulaciones. Es como una cachetada que nos dan.
Acerca de esa regulación, ¿qué es lo que dice?
Básicamente las regulaciones es de que ellos están de acuerdo con los aumentos que tienen ellos, que vienen de sus expertos, no de los expertos de nosotros, que trabaja para el Departamento de Regulación de Pesticidas. Básicamente, para no hacernos bolas con estos números, están básicamente diciendo que está todo bien lo que están usando, que los niveles, aunque salen que están altos, cerca de las escuelas del norte del condado, para ellos estos números son seguros, y allí es donde básicamente termina la historia, que no van a hacer nada acerca de cómo poder abogar por nosotros.
¿Cuáles son los números?
Los números son básicamente en parts per billion, ahorita no me acuerdo exactamente si el número exacto, pero en resumen es 14 veces más que cualquier otro californiano, lo que se está usando, que son niveles muy altos y exagerados, y por eso ya fuimos a la corte y estamos aquí nuevamente con los mismos resultados.
Entonces, ¿la corte no falló a favor de ustedes?
La corte falló a favor de nosotros, diciéndoles a ellos básicamente tienen que regresar a trabajar en conjunto, llegar con una cifra adecuada, segura, y para ellos haz de cuenta que nomás usaron el tiempo en vano porque no se hizo nada.
Bueno, pero en el condado de Monterrey o Santa Cruz tienen el programa para avisar cuando se utilizan los pesticidas.
No, solamente ciertas escuelas al norte del condado participan de un piloto que se llama el de notificación, donde agarran la información, pero nomás para que la gente entienda lo que tan grave la situación es que este químico está eliminado en 34 países. Aquí se sigue usando, pero es lo que no entendemos, cómo es posible que se siga usando aquí, y en el condado de Monterrey es el pesticida tercero más usado. Así es que si este pesticida no es de que te advierten de que va a causar cáncer, dice en su etiqueta causa cáncer.
Ok. Ustedes, la comisión, el comité, ¿cómo se llama el comité?
De Safe,
o sea, va a poder, ¿cómo va a poder actuar con esto y hasta cuándo entra en vigor esto?
Esto básicamente ya está en vigor, porque básicamente el comisionado de aquí de Monterrey ya estaba otorgando sus permisos, no estaba dándoles diferentes opciones a los rancheros para que usaran otros diferentes menos tóxicos o menos peligrosos pesticidas. Básicamente nuestro movimiento es seguir en la lucha hasta que se elimine, hacer concientización, alarmar al público porque deberían de estar alarmados, porque este químico 1,3D, Telone, causa cáncer.
Qué bien, me encanta cómo